My name's Neil Taylor and I am now an erstwhile campsite warden after spending 5 years looking after campsites. There is going to be a link down there in the video description below to a campsite warden Facebook group that if you are a warden, a past warden, a future warden, a present warden, or you're thinking about becoming a warden, I suggest you go and join the Facebook group. It's a bit of a self-help group, but I'm going to come to that in a minute. So the reason why I'm doing this vlog over the Easter 2025 bank holiday is most campsites now, this should be the start, this should be the proper kickstart to the holiday season, and most campsites should be pretty full, if not completely full. Some wardens will have started their warden role probably early March, some a little bit later, and times change, but basically you can get wardens starting new roles. Campsites start to advertise jobs normally, generally speaking, into the new year after Christmas, January, February, trying to get everything in place for when campsites open, normally around the March period, early March, mid-March, end of March. The reason why I'm doing this video is on my Facebook group for campsite wardens, some questions have come up to why campsites are advertising so late in the season and why they're re-advertising a vacancy that they should have had filled earlier in the year. So I've got some notes in front of me. If my eyes wander, that's what's going on. But there are going to be a number of reasons why campsites are re-advertising during the peak season. There's lots and lots of potential reasons, but some are dubious at best, but some are genuine. So I'm going to cover some scenarios to discuss. If you want to feedback, please comment down there in the video description below if you're able to do that. I'll always try and get back to you. And there is, as I say, the Facebook group that we've got where you can post on there anonymously if you're having problems. So why are campsites advertising right at the beginning of what should be the kickstart of the season? Why so late in the year? But yet they were advertising earlier in the year. So maybe, I'm going to go through some scenarios now. So maybe they're advertising because the campsite wardens that were meant to be starting the job have let them down. That could be for a number of reasons, many reasons. Could be for personal reasons, other job offers, other opportunities, but basically a campsite could have had a warden or a warden couple or wardens all in place, only to find when it came to the start date they got let down by the wardens, the potential new wardens. So that is not uncommon for that to happen. You'll also get some campsite wardens, new ones, that think the life of a campsite warden, oh, you know what we do, we just jolly around, we sit on our arses and we talk all day, and oh, we might cut a bit, we'll sit on a mower and we'll talk, and the role of a campsite warden can be very demanding, and it can be quite stressful, and a lot of wardens start the job and they can't cut the mustard. So when I was a warden, I would literally be wearing out a pair of trainers every 3 or 4 months, 10, 15, 20, 25,000 steps every single day, walking up and down and walking up and down. It is a physical job on most situations. So some campsite wardens that started the job just thought that the job was a life of Riley. They were just going to sit on their arses all day and do jack. So they haven't been able to cut the mustard. You will have to deal with members of the public, and some sites, depending on the circumstances that you're on, it can get intimidating and even aggressive with some members of the public, unfortunately. And if you're not used to dealing with the public when you're in a difficult situation, that can also lead to a new warden or a new warden couple potentially leaving. Part of the role of being a campsite warden, I'm going to touch on this in a moment, is also cleaning facilities, toilet facilities, shower facilities, reception areas. And if you're going to be cleaning toilets, you're going to be cleaning shite. And that's part of the job. And if you haven't got the stomach for that, another reason why some wardens will leave the role. You'll be dealing with blocked toilets, you'll be dealing with human beings that are not exactly clean animals at times, and it can be quite disgusting. I've had some, I worked on a very large holiday camp, and I had some horrendous scenes before me. So the campsite wardens could be leaving because they can't cut the mustard, they didn't want to clean, and they can't be doing with human waste and all the things that go on with it. They can be just physically tired because the days can be long and things like that. There's lots of reasons why campsite wardens very early on in the season leave the role, and they can leave a campsite in a doo-doo, especially if that campsite put faith into them. But this is where alarm bells need to ring. If you see a job vacancy being advertised now during the mid-busy season, as I say, I'm recording this over the Easter 2025 bank holiday, so every campsite should be full and they should all be fully staffed. Do not be scared to ask the advertiser, why are you advertising so late in the year? What happened to your previous warden or wardens? Don't be scared to ask that question. And if you don't get an answer, walk away. A good campsite owner will tell you what has happened. Whether that's going to be truthful or not, who knows. But don't be scared to ask that question. At your interview, you can be promised the world. You can be promised all sorts. You start your job and you find out that basically you've been employed as a cleaner and you don't like that. And all you're doing is you're expected to go into the toilets at 6 o'clock in the morning for 2 hours, late morning for 2 hours, in the afternoon for 2 hours, and all you're doing is cleaning toilets. That is not the role of a campsite warden. Walk away from that job if that is what you've been expected to do all the time. It suits some people. If that's what you want to do, fine. But some wardens just get so disillusioned because they were promised a warden role, and that warden role should be cleaning. You've got to be doing that. Grounds maintenance, grass cutting, trimming, and more importantly for a lot of wardens, what they enjoy doing is the meet and greet and showing people to the pitches, taking bookings and things like that. So be very careful with what you've been offered, what you were told the job was going to be, and what it now transpires to be. Cleaning is not being a campsite warden. You are not a campsite warden if you are being employed as a cleaner. And the same if you're expected to work in a cafe or a bar or a restaurant or an eating establishment all the time on a campsite. That is not the role of a warden. I have in the past done a couple of hours doing breakfasts in the mornings on a campsite I worked at, and I loved it. It was absolutely amazing. But my employers, the people who employed me, were very open and transparent and said, Neil, we've got a cafe that's open in the mornings, can you help out on there? And they explained it all to me, and I was more than happy with that. And likewise, I worked on another campsite where I was also doing some bar work in the evening, but again, I was fully aware of what was coming, if that makes any sense. But if you now end up on a site and instead of being the warden, you are being slowly pushed over to another role, question it, and don't be scared to walk away, but always question it with the people that have employed you. On call. So as a warden, you will probably, not necessarily, but you will probably be requested to be on call. So my last 3 years I was on call pretty much 24/7, apart from 2 days off that I had where the relief warden took over the on-call phone. It didn't bother me. The on-call calls were very few and far between. We had some medical emergencies, quite serious on a couple of occasions that I had to deal with, but it was all, I was quite happy to do it. I knew that I'd be taking that on-call phone. It's very frustrating when you get silly phone calls at 8, 9, 10 o'clock in the morning, or even 7, 8 o'clock in the morning, like real stupid calls. But the on-call role may be part of the package that you're offered. If you're working for a company and that on-call role starts to become demanding, all the time you're getting on-calls. Oh, my power's tripped. How do I get my electric on? I can't change my gas bottle, and you're on call all the time. Question that. And should you be paid? If you're on call constantly, yes, you should. But you need to assess the pros and cons of the role that you've got to whether that on-call role is suitable for you. If it's getting too much for you, don't bottle it up. Go and speak to your boss and go, look, you know, you said I'd be on call, but I didn't realise I was going to be 24/7 on call. Question it, speak. And a good employer, someone that's employing you, a good site owner, will listen to your concerns and will work with you for a resolution. You will get... A campsite warden is not really a go to work at 9 o'clock and finish at 5 o'clock role. You are going to get some days where you're working long hours, and you're going to be getting some days where you work short hours. And depending on your contract, you may not be employed to work certain hours. But so, like some of the club sites do, I think they do an 8 to 4 shift, a 9 to 5 shift, and I think it's 11 to 8 shift. So some do offer you fixed hours, but sometimes you will be required to work out of what you would call your normal hours. That can be frustrating, but it's part of the role of being a campsite warden, and you need to be aware of that. And again, that should have been explained to you when you went for the job, or you should have even asked the question, what time will I be expected to work till? So you may have a last check-in time for arrivals at 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock. Be aware that campers, some of them can take the mickey about time of arrivals and last time of arrival, but you need to be aware of that. But that can lead to people just walking out of the job because they're sick and tired of late arrivals, and it wasn't really part of the package what they thought they were going to be doing. You may be offered accommodation. Now this is a bit of a controversial one, this one, and I know for some campsite wardens it's worked fantastic. They've been given lodges and accommodation, and it's been wonderful, absolutely fantastic. But I know other people have been offered accommodation and then they've been absolutely held over a barrel and been shafted, because if you walk out of that job or you have to leave, you potentially can lose your home where you were planning on staying for the season. Be really careful if you are offered accommodation, and that if you have to leave quickly for whatever reason, or you're dismissed for whatever reason, you've got other alternative accommodation ready for you. I watched a campsite warden couple who were documenting their journey. They were new campsite wardens. Oh, it's the best job we've ever got. It's fantastic. And it was a very wet start to the season. They were towing people out of muddy pitches, which they shouldn't have been doing. And then they started off in the morning. Oh, we're cleaning and we've got the mop out, and they're glamorising the role of being a campsite warden. But then I'm watching them at 11 o'clock at night and midnight still working, and I thought, you know what, this is not going to end well. And they were in a static that they'd been provided, and they ended up having to walk, and the whole lot went wrong because they realised that they were being exploited because of the accommodation that had been provided. So bear that in mind, because you can be literally held over a barrel if you're in that situation. If you spot the same campsite putting an advert out every month, every 6 weeks, 2 months, even 3 months, or even 4 months, if you see that same campsite constantly advertising for wardens. This happens, don't ask me why, a lot in Cornwall and a lot in Scotland, quite remote-y areas where people have got to travel to. If you see them advertising all the time, alarm bells should start ringing. On my Facebook group, you can search on that group for a campsite name, and you can see whether they've advertised on the Facebook group that I run, and you can see how many adverts that they've done. So do check out the campsite to why they're advertising, and if you apply for the job, ask them, why do you advertise for the job every 2 months? Why does nobody stay with you? Let alarm bells ring if that situation come in. Bad fellow wardens, your colleagues. Right, another controversial one. So some club sites obviously have, the bigger sites have managers. There's a hierarchy on staff, and you have some wardens that have been on a campsite for a year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years. Fortunately, in most situations, the managers are good, but like every job you get, you can get bad managers and you can get personality conflicts, and that can be awful. Or you can even be working on the same hierarchy with a fellow warden, and they're sort of expecting you to do all those jobs, and we'll do all the nice jobs, you do that, and bad feelings can arise. I got banned from a campsite warden Facebook group for offering some help and some comfort to a fellow campsite warden that was being bullied by a manager. And the group that I was on, the Facebook group I was on, wouldn't let help happen. Hence I set up my Facebook group. But just be absolutely aware that you can get a personality conflict with other wardens, but this can happen in any job. It doesn't matter whether it's retail, behind a bar, any job, it can happen. And it tends to be where you've got managers that have been in a role for a long time, and they know all the cushy jobs, and they expect you to do all the bungs, not so nice jobs. We've all got to start somewhere, but just be aware that you can get a personality conflict, and if that does happen and you're working for a club site or a large company, don't be afraid to raise your concerns with the HR department if you're able to do that, or go direct to the campsite owners if you're able to, and go, look, I've got a problem, I'm enjoying my job, but working with blah blah, it's intolerable. It can be, an awful situation to be in. If you're a campsite warden and you apply for the job, on your CV you may put down that you used to be an electrician, you used to be a builder, you used to be a plumber, you used to be an IT technician, you used to be a painter and decorator. A campsite can exploit those transferable skills. So if you're going to be a warden, you are going to be expected to do basic DIY maintenance. You are going to be expected to do jobs around a bit of painting, a bit of plumbing, some electrical work. You're going to be expected. You are not being paid to build a farmhouse. If you're being expected to paint miles of fencing or painting outside of buildings, and you feel this is out of your remit, just remember to question that and go, look, you know, I'm meant to be a warden here, I'm not a painter or decorator. And likewise with plumbing and building, you're going to be on minimum wage. You can't get a plumber on minimum wage. Don't be exploited. You know, but do be prepared to do DIY skills. A campsite is it can be a very fast moving industry where electrical problems happen, plumbing problems happen, paint needs touching up, but you are not a painter and decorator, you are not an electrician, and you are not a plumber. So just be careful that you don't get exploited. The role of a campsite warden is for grown-ups. As I say, I have got a link in the video description to my Facebook group, which is for grown-ups, and you will get people will try and tell a 60-year-old or a 50-year-old, don't go for that job because it's self-employed. You are all grown-ups, or most of you will be totally grown up, and you'll have been to the University of Life. So don't be put off by other people telling you what you should and shouldn't do. A lot of them aren't even wardens. So I hope these tips have been of some use to you. It's quite a long video. I'm just trying to cover some of the notes that I've jotted down over the last couple of days when I've seen some alarm bells that have been ringing. In my own personal situation, I was a campsite warden for 5 years, and I worked on 5 campsites. I worked in Northumberland, West Wales, Somerset, South Lake District and Lincolnshire. I worked for a large holiday company. The staff were amazing, absolutely amazing, but my role for a single solo warden, I had anxiety, and I never had anxiety before. I had to leave that role, and I was working for a big company. I tried to explain the situation to my managers, and they were under pressure, anyway, so I've been and worked for a large company that was bad, and I also got slightly exploited by a private company that I worked for only a month, who took the mickey out of me, and we departed company. And again, the job description and things that they expected me to do and all that, they took the mickey. I've not named the sites. Some of you will know where I was. Some of you will be able to track down and work out where I was. So I have been on a bad large company site, and I've worked for a small private site where things didn't work out. I've also worked on 3 amazing sites. Every site's got its own issues and problems and things, but you know, I've got some experience, and obviously watching the feedback via the Facebook groups that I'm on, we're here, or I'm here, to offer you help and support if I'm able to. You can comment in the video description below if you're able to do that. You can go and join my Facebook group, and you can post on there anonymously. There's no problem with that. If you've got any questions or advice, or you need some hand holding, or sometimes you just need a fellow warden to speak to. Hope you found that information I've given to be of use. If you did, smashing the like button would be fantastic. And remember, you can like, comment and subscribe down there below if you wanted to. Enjoy your season. If you are watching this and you are an existing campsite warden, if you're a company or a campsite owner watching this, I hope you're having an amazing time and things work out really well for you. And if you're thinking about becoming a campsite warden, do a lot of research.